Hello, let me show you how I got the bungalow growing enough coca to produce up to $40,000 a day from your cellars. It is also completely self-sufficient and autonomous for 10 plus days, so no need to visit the bungalow for well over a week in-game. You can just let it run while you do other stuff. But first, get yourself something thought-provoking because I'm going to quickly run through the numbers. We need 80 coca seed, 80 PGR, 80 soil. Then to grow it, we need 8 racks, 8 pots, 8 lights, and 8 drying racks. A regular plant gives us 9 leaves, while a plant with PGR will give us 16. Therefore, 80 plants times 16 is 1,280 leaves. I'm also using 4 cauldrons, 4 ovens, 3 mixing stations, and 1 brick press. And mixing with $16,000 of ingredients. So our initial setup cost is $64,320 plus $900 a day for staff. But without the equipment cost, subsequent grows are $35,200 for the seed, soil, PGR and mixing ingredients, plus $900 a day for staff. So back to production, 1,280 leaves will get cooked down to 640 base. The base then gets cooked into 640 product. 640 product is then turned into 32 bricks. We then make a product that can easily fetch $500. What you make is up to you, of course, but I'm going for a $500 product. The plants take 24 hours to grow, so with drying time, the grow time is between 10 to 12 in-game days. So a $500 product will make a $10,000 brick. 6 sellers should be able to shift the average output of 3.2 bricks a day, which is $32,000 a day. Or in another way, $320,000 per grow, or $224,000 per week. However, the sellers can sell over 4 bricks a day, making $40,000 plus a day. I hope you got all that. So, let's show you how it all works. So I've got my cleaner, 2 growers and 2 handlers. Now let's go lay out the pots. So I've gone for this kind of L-shaped in here. So we put pot there, there, and there, and then we miss one, put the last 2 here, and then we put a trash can just there. So that being basically in the middle of the room should keep the whole room nice and tidy. Now, putting beds in properties is one of the most awkward and annoying parts, but this is the layout I've come up with. So we put 2 beds here and 2 beds here. We still got access to them, so we can still put the money in the boxes. And then we can put the 5th bed, which can be the cleaner's bed, in the grow room. Then you just assign your beds, assign the cleaner to the trash can. So as you can see, it will keep the whole room tidy. Now, this is the supplies shelf. So this is the most important part. We've got our 80 PGR, 80 seed and 80 soil. Now you could use any soil, but the extra long life soil just makes it nice and easy. So we take 2 stacks of soil. That's 20 soil. Then we take 3 stacks of seed and 3 stacks of PGR. So they are in stacks of 10. So you put in 30 seed and 30 PGR in it. Then you get a handler, and her job, which is a very important job, is to keep the supply shelf topped up from the soil, the PGR and the seed. So every time a grower pulls out a seed or a PGR or some soil, she will come along and replace it 1 for 1. So the supply shelf will never run out during the 80 plant grow. So this will last for the entire 12 days or so. The soil will deplete the slowest, so we don't really need to worry about that. The maximum obviously is 8 because there's 8 plants, so there's never going to be anything drawn out more than 8. And now what we do is we set the grower's supply shelf to this, so that's where they're taking all their supplies from. So we make sure both of them have got that set. And then we pick one of our growers and we will assign them 4 pots and then 4 of the drying racks. So we can shift click to select multiple, shift click and then let go of shift and then here, and that's it. And then we do the same for the other grower. And we'll give him the other 4 pots. and the other for drying rack. Now this drying room, this layout seems to work quite nicely. They have access, they don't seem to get stuck. So when I first tried this, I had this rack here, but the grower in the corner, she would kind of get stuck going between the two. So this one seems to work. Now we want the output of the pots to coincide with the relevant growers' racks. It doesn't matter which rack as long as it's one of theirs. Although it probably doesn't matter either way. Now we select all 8 racks. We make sure the quality is set to the purple. And the destination, all of them, to this one shelf. So all 8 pots will go to their respective drying rack, and then all 8 drying racks go to this one shelf. Now we get the handler, and we're doing a big overflow method. So just like anyone that's played Satisfactory, you can overflow your storage. Then we get our other handler, and she's just got enough to finish the chain. Like so. So now when product comes in here like this, just give them some money so that they actually do stuff. He'll pick up the first batch of output, put it there, then he moves it around to all the shelves, and once it's got to the end of his part, she comes in to finish it off and picks it up from there, puts it there, and then picks it up from there, and finally puts it on the last shelf. So this is where we got each shelf. It's got 8 stacks, or 8 slots I should say. We've got 8 shelves, so 8 shelves with 8 slots is 64 times 20 is your 1280. So although in this situation where we've got 8 dryers and 8 shelves, you don't necessarily need a overflow system, but it is cool. It shows you how it works. It's very useful in other situations where you might have multiple outputs to one shelf which fills up. But here it can be helpful because we can just run in quickly to grab a shelf of leaves. There's always going to be a shelf full of leaves immediately inside the door. So now we get things going. We've given everyone their money and they are moving. So the initial day is going to be a bit slow because it takes them quite a while to actually plant all the plants. And as you can see, as they take something from the supply shelf, the handler comes in and immediately, here she comes, immediately replenishes the supplies shelf. As a side note, I did see whether setting the order of the pots and dryers made a difference, but no, they will prioritize harvesting over drying. In terms of drying, we have 16 coming in at lower quality. It takes 12 hours to get to the next quality, and then when you have the next quality, it takes 12 hours to get to the next quality. So it takes 24 hours for the whole drying process when you use PGR. We will always have 16 coming in, and then 24 hours later there'll be another 16 coming in, but there should be 16 coming out, so we shouldn't really ever get a clogged up system. Oh, and if you didn't know, the plants stop growing at 4 AM, so you can't cheese it. So it's been 10 days now in game. We started on Tuesday, it's now Friday. We've still got 8 seeds and there's 7 plants, I think. Okay, they're still working. Out here we've got 8 drying racks full with more to dry. So we've got about 240 more to grow, 128 drying, 128 waiting to dry, 1,280 in these shelves here. So we've actually got about 1776 leaves somehow from this one grow, which is a lot more than expected. But having more than having less is great. So now all we need to do is do something with them. So I've got some fans here. Unfortunately the vans can only handle 2 shelf loads at the same time. Hopefully one day the developer will add the ability to hire a driver or a way of like delivering between the 2 properties. But for now we've got to actually do a little bit of manual work here now. Now you've got 1,280 coca leaves. What you do with them is up to you, but what I've done is I've got my warehouse set up to receive 8 shelf loads, and this is also set up to run autonomously without any input from me until all of the 1,280 leaves have been processed into 32 bricks. And I've got 3 chemists, 6 handlers and 1 cleaner. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use handlers to move every other shelf to the next shelf. So we have 4 shelves feeding 4 cauldrons, and then 4 overflow shelves feeding those 4 supply shelves. We then use the handler to fill the cauldron up with fuel, and you do that with 4 handlers. Then you move the cauldron to the ovens 4 times. So all 4 ovens move their recently cooked product to this shelf. Then we need a handler to move that cooked product from the shelf to the first mixer. Then that mixer moves it to the next mixer after being mixed with horse juice. Then we mix it with iodine, and then we finish it off with a nice tasty battery. Then we move it to the brick press, and brick press to the output shelf. This shelf will fill up, so we have to overflow it. But first, we will use our handlers to load the mixing machines with our batteries, our iodine and our horse juice. So whichever handlers can move to mixers. Then we also need to refill that shelf with the shelf behind it. We get someone to make sure the gas never runs out, and they can take the extra shelves and fill it into the secondary shelves, and you just do that with all the shelves. So you've got 4 shelves of each product. So from there to there, and then from there we go up the stairs to here, and then from there to the final shelf. Now we set our chemists. Chemists having 4 items they can control now is really nice. So now we've got handlers using the brick press. He sends it to the output shelf. There's our finished product, nice pink brick. He will then move it along the shelves to the final shelf, which is here. Now all we do is wait for our workers to make 32 bricks for us. Make sure you pay them for enough days. We have 1,280 leaves. For every 20 leaves we get 10 base. So we get 640 base. We are consuming 80 leaves per 6 hours, as the cauldrons take 6 hours and the ovens take 6 hours. So we should mathematically get 4 cooks per day, but it doesn't really normally happen like that. But if we were running at 100% efficiency, we would be using 320 leaves per day to produce 160 product. 160 product would be enough to make 8 bricks. Therefore, mathematically, it should be 4 days, but actually it's quite a few more. Also, I feel like it depends on what time you sleep. So as soon as we list it, our friend Peter here, he offers 510 for one of our pink starfish. But I'm going to try 600, and that's fine. So we can sell this product for 600. Michael Boo. Now we know he's a rich boy. So we're gonna say, let's try, I don't know, say 3,000. That would be 750 each. And he's fine with it. Doesn't even complain. Here's Michael. And here's your 4. And we're getting the 20% curfew bonus too. So that's an extra 600 bucks. Now we need to just start distributing our bricks to the dealers and they will cut it themselves. So there you have it. I've got all 6 dealers selling bricks and only brick of that product. And they've obviously sold more than 4 bricks in one day because it's 40 grand. With their 20% cut as well. So if you've learned something here or found it interesting, don't forget to give it a like and I'll send you a free sample in the post. Thank you. Bye.